Welcome to Sports Geek Amplify, where we profile sports technology solutions to drive results for your sports business. In this Sports Geek Amplify episode, we chat with the founder of UbiPark, a parking solution that can improve the fan experience and bring new revenue into sports. Here's your host, founder of Sports Geek, Sean Callanan.
Welcome to Sports Geek Amplified. My name is Sean Callanan from Sports Geek, and you are watching or listening to this episode where I'm going to feature another business, a sports technology business that can help sports bounce back. In this episode, I'm going to talk with Mostyn Howe, the founder of UbiPark. Mostyn, welcome to the show.
Hey, Sean. Thanks for having me on.
No, not a problem. Not a problem. We are longtime friends, known each other for many, many years, and you've been in the parking game for a long time. I want you to, what I've been doing in challenging everyone is to do the Twitter challenge, old school Twitter, 140 characters. Can you describe what UbiPark does in 140 characters?
Well, I might start off by saying that I'm in the parking industry, been in there for nearly 24 years now, and the good people get out, so I'm still stuck here. But yeah, UbiPark, we started off wanting to improve the parking experience for the motorist in general. So we've digitised the entire parking transaction, allowing the motorist to search, navigate, access and pay for parking directly from their smartphone. And we're in the midst of putting it into the dash of the car. So you'll be able to do the entire parking solution from there.
That's pretty much it for the people who don't know. If you're driving somewhere and you're looking for a park, open up UbiPark, hit the button, it'll tell you where to park, and it drives you straight there. So very much along the lines of every other app we use to book cars, to book food, to book whatever, very much in that on-demand ability and not having the problems that people previously had of driving around, trying to find the right park, where's the best prices. UbiPark sorts all that out. I guess what people who might be listening to this episode and have listened to other episodes in the Sports Geek Amplify series are like, Sean, what are you doing? Why is there a car parking solution in this? Like I said, we've been working together for a long time, and one of the things that I always loved doing in Sports Geek is bringing tech into sport that helps open up pieces. So we're really going to tackle, I guess, the sports solution and the sports offering from UbiPark. So what is that? I guess what is that piece to go from? Hey, here's a technology and here's a business that helps people get to where they want to go. How does UbiPark apply to the world of sport?
Yeah, well, we're a B2B enterprise business solution. So when we've aimed at three sort of target markets, one being the smart property market in commercial and residential buildings, integrating into those smart property apps that you're seeing are being rolled out. The other place is the connected car. So providing that parking as a service back into the connected car. And the third is in what we're calling mobility. So it's the mass apps, and probably in the sports area, we're doing integrating this solution in. We believe parking apps will die. So if you're downloading a parking app to do a single parking transaction, we don't think that's the future. We think the integrated approach where it's part of a bigger ecosystem, because it's just another service that can be added, is how people are going to want to transact. And so if they're heading to an event, then parking should be a service that's fitting into that event app and helping the fan actually have the experience before they even get to the event.
Yeah, so it's a lot of the technology we're seeing being applied to sport. It is that, hey, what are the different utilities? Hey, how can we get in-seat ordering into the app? How can we open up the app and tell us where to go in the stadium, or how can we look at the signage to know where to go in the stadium? So it's really as that adding that utility service. So that's what we're talking about here. Exactly, solving that piece. And so from a sports point of view. If you're thinking as a fan, everyone talks about the game day experience, and it's like, what's it like when you're at the stadium, and how can you get your food, and how can you make the experience? But what you're looking at here is actually just extending that a little bit more, and like, what is that half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour and a half, depending on where you're coming from? What does that pre-game look like before you get to the stadium, and also what is that experience after the game, and how do you get out? So how does UbiPark fit into that equation?
Yeah, we see sort of fitting in three main areas. The fan experience is probably the first one. So how can we improve that fan experience? How can we give them a better start to getting to the event? So, the typical problem is I'm stuck in traffic. I'm going to miss the first bounce or the start of the tennis game, which is not a great experience. I've just paid some good money to go to the event, and now I'm going to miss the start of it because I'm stuck in a traffic jam. So how can we actually get them into? And it may not be the car park at the stadium. How do we get them into a car park, and maybe the last part of their journey is on foot or on a tram, for instance, in Melbourne, so we can get them in, and so they don't miss the start of the game. So that fan experience, and we found there's two types of users. There's a planned user. They'll book. They want to know days before the event how they're going to get there, how long it's going to take to get there. They've got a guaranteed spot if they're parking, so they've planned out. And then, it's the typical me. I'm going to wing it and get to the game. I'm going to try and find the park at the front door, which never happens. Yep. And how can you help that? So they're the two types of users we're looking to help. Then there's this safety aspect of it now. So it's contactless, it's windows up, completely COVID safe. It's a safer experience when we get it into the dash of the car, so they can do it while they're driving. And then for us, probably the big thing is that we're finding with the people we're talking to at the moment is we're creating a revenue line that they haven't seen before out of parking revenue. And, a lot of these events or stadiums are actually generating massive parking revenue around them. They're probably the main generator of revenue for these parking businesses. So why shouldn't they be taking a piece of that action?
Yeah, so to refine that, like I spoke to Al Guido at the San Francisco 49ers when they digitized Levi Stadium, and they said just simply putting in their parking functionality into their app and moving away from paper enable them to capture a bunch more revenue. But what you're talking about is not actually not only maximising revenue of your own car park, but then also as a sport or as a stadium owner, actually getting revenue coming in from the surrounding car parks because they're going through your portal, your app, and you're directing them. And as you said, having that better fan experience. So I know my experience. I'm normally lucky enough to walk to the MCG, and I don't have to have the hassles of parking. But when I did tear my Achilles and I was in a moon boot and I was really desperate to go to a game, I do remember trying to drive to the MCG and trying to find a park. And I eventually just got so frustrated, threw the toys out of the cot and drove home and watched it on TV. It's like that experience is one that you're trying to solve.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have the same experience. I drive a little bit. I'm a bit further out of town than you, but same venues, both, what is it called these days? Marvel Stadium.
Yep.
And MCG. And you have the same problem. Well, the MCG is closed now for parking to the public for probably 12 to 15 events through the year now. So they're not even looking to get parking into the events. So why couldn't they sort of take advantage of the parking that's happening around there? And there's great businesses have been generated out of that. So people are still going to have to drive for whatever reason. Not everyone's going to be able to get public transport. And we want to obviously get people travelling in different modes of transport, but the people that are driving, and there's definitely a pushback to that with COVID sort of affecting people getting on public transport from a safety point of view.
Yep.
Then let's make that experience as good as we can, but also how can we reduce some of the traffic congestion around the stadium and help people get in? If we can push them into the right areas that are best for them to get them into a car park and then into the venue quicker, then that's going to impact positively on the congestion around the stadiums.
I guess the other thing is, and we've been just discussing, going to the footy, and it's something you do 10, 12, 15 times a year, and you get that ritual of always going there. And so it becomes easier to, I guess, send that message out and tell people this is the way to go. And people get in that routine, whether they always go to that same car park and they get in that routine. But sport does offer different types of use cases, and some of them are, it's just an event. And it's an event I go to once. And so it's not something you don't have the familiarity of always going to the same spot or the same parking location. How do you work? Tell us about how you can work in that space and a recent case study.
Yeah, the tennis is probably the perfect example. And, my parents are still living in Creswick Shore, and Mum loves the tennis. So she'll come down. She's going to drive. She's not going to jump on the train.
Yep.
And then, in a normal year, you would drive into Olympic Boulevard to get into the tennis, and there's no public parking at the tennis centre, as we know. They close it all down for security purposes.
Yep.
So you get in there and it's a nightmare. It's always massive traffic. And then to actually find a parking space, you've either got to go into the city and then you might be 10 or 15 minutes back to the venue, or you got to go into Richmond,
Yep.
And then you're in the same boat. So by helping that person that's a one-time or not familiar with the area and is coming in there for the first time, they can they can search before they leave. They can book a space before they leave. They can then navigate directly to the car park. So you're taking them away from all that congestion, and you're getting them as quickly as possible into the parking location. And then you can direct them from there across by foot or another mode of transport to do the final part of the journey to the front of the stadium and in through the gates.
So that's the thing with the Aussie Open. Walking in Richmond saw Australian Open approved parking locations and signage the like. So again, opens up, and even in this, shout out to our friends at Tennis Australia who ran the Australian Open and then had the little mini break, the 5 days off in the middle. But to at least open up a new revenue stream, that's a great way for them to say, hey, here's all the different places you can park, around the precinct.
Yeah, look, firstly, I'll just shout out to the projects team and the fan experience team at the Australian Open. Amazing job with amazingly challenging experiences. Like, things were changing hourly for those guys, which obviously impacted on our team pulling that together as well. And sort of shout out to our team at Ubi Park that pulled together the app and was able to get that out and running. It didn't help 5 days close down, so there's no fans through the middle. So, but we pulled together a solution that, the Australian Open looking to get people into the event in a COVID safe way, because it was a really hot topic.
Yep.
And people weren't jumping on public transport. They didn't really want to get in taxis or rideshare. So here was an alternative to get to the venue so they could get the fans in safely in a way that they wanted to travel. We pulled together around 20 locations around the tennis centre to go onto the application and offer up discount parking for those fans. And we created a revenue line back to Tennis Australia out of that. The perfect situation will be we'd integrate that into the Australian Open app, so you can do everything that you're doing from the Australian Open app. So hopefully we could have some discussions with a bit more time this for next year's event.
So that's the thing. It is about, hey, what do you do you want to work on your customer experience? How can you enhance that? And then, like you said, you're a B2B utility service. How do you integrate that into the app experience? In the same way that you can open up, see the fixtures, see the days, and buy the tickets. You're saying, I've already got my tickets, and we're moving now to a place where the tickets are now inside the app. You're saying the same thing is, here's your ticket, hit the button, and here's how you can book your parking. That's the fully fledged version that you can have, integrating it with whatever app there might be.
Yeah, I think there's lots of services going into these solutions, and not just in the sporting area. There's Equium, that's a smart property app, are putting in all sorts of types. So you can buy your coffee, you can book a meeting room.
Yep.
So people are looking for that experience to do it in the one place. So, for me, I've just downloaded the Australian Open app when I'm going to the tennis. I can book my tickets. I can see, what games I'm going to, what players I'm going to see. I can see profiles of those players. The queue times, obviously, that I've seen through the MCG app, I love that, so I know where to go.
Yep.
And then for me, parking's one that actually can create revenue. There's a lot of solutions that can go in, but it's hard to commercialise it and get something back to pay for it. But there's parking's a $700 billion industry worldwide, and events make up a fair whack of that revenue. So if we can get a percentage of that revenue going back into the event owner or the stadiums from outside their own parking, then they can pay for the services that they're putting back into these great stadium and event apps.
Terrific. Well, it's a good segue to jump into our segment for the triple threat.
Now it's time for the Sports Geek Amplify Triple Threat.
So how does Ubi Park, especially in a sports context, how does it save time? In what way does it save time?
Yeah, so the time's really at the fan.
Yep.
So providing an efficient process for the fan to get to the event the quickest way possible. And again, it comes back to those two types of personas. It'll be the fan that's planning, so they can see all the information in one place. They can do everything they need. They know how long it's going to take. They know they're a guaranteed spot when they get there, and they're going to have that experience that they want to get in and save them time. And then, the person like me that's unplanned, then I'm going to sort of wing it, and then when I work out, I'm not going to be as lucky as I would thought I was going to be. I can sort of work out how to sort of get in the event and make sure I was, get to the start of the match. So that's probably the main thing.
It's an important one. Most of the answers that are coming through have been, how can I save time for the staff and that kind of thing. But like looking at it from a fan point of view, making the experience better, turning a 90-minute, sojourn through traffic into a 75-minute and a comfortable park and an easy walk, like that little saving. And like you said, I remember, and I still, the pressure of trying to get there before the bounce, dragging three kids, trying to get into the stadium, and because that's what you want to be. You want to be at the game. So, and then from a money point of view, you've touched on it already. Does it save money or actually make money for the sports?
No, we're a revenue creator. So we're creating revenue for the event owner or for the stadium or for the sporting league. It's probably the three main areas that we're targeting in the sporting environment. So, it's a revenue creator. So, revenue again, so in Australia, it's a $4 billion industry parking. In around the world, 700 billion. So a small percentage of that coming back into the event owner or the league is what we're about.
And it is win-win-win, right? So the car parks that are on your platform and the customers that have got the ability to the utilization, they get people in their car parks. So it is a win-win-win. And then from a resources, you touched on a little bit on it, the work that you had to do with the Australian Open to get things up and running. What resources, what sort of the process to say, hey, we want to roll out Ubi Park? What are some of the steps and resources required to get the execution running so you can turn on that little parking revenue tap?
Yeah, so we like to get the fan experience exactly right for the actual event. So that means some tweaking and some design and some customer journey workflows. So working with the fan experience team to make sure that we've nutted that out and we get the UI UX right in the app. And then it's working with the technical team, with the Australian Open was, we're working with them because the app lives in their store account. So we had to, build the app and put it in there and then push it to the stores for go live. But in the perfect situation, we're working with those teams to actually inbuild this technology through our SDKs and APIs. So they've got that full technology and experience sitting inside their app.
Yep, so it is. It's just like rolling out a new version of the app with new technology and new features, so then people know about it. And then, the marketer in me says, cool, now that people have got that tech, you've got to tell people about it. Like there's a lot of sports apps these days have a lot of different features that a lot of the fans don't know. And so for mine, it's like roll it out, but it's a hidden gem. Tell people about it, that they can go in and they can, tap on and tap off, or even like you said, windows up and go through. That's the piece. A little bit of marketing will go a long way and really change what that revenue will be coming back to the sport.
Yeah, I probably missed the most important bit there, and that is the marketing side of it. So, working with the marketing teams after that, we've got an in-house marketing team that understand parking, and then obviously the marketing teams at the sporting events that we've worked with understand their event or their stadium, and that seems to work really well to pull together some great marketing campaigns to push out to get people to utilize this and get revenue going through it for both of us.
Yep. So, this as an industry vertical was, to a certain degree, was sort of on the roadmap, but got accelerated by COVID. Like you said, you're very much in the parking game, in the mobility game. You've got a lot of great data on how people are moving around. So I guess I wanted to know from you and from this, the stats and the trends you're seeing, how are people moving differently? What are the changes you've seen with, working from home and then starting to return back, and how people are turning up? How has that changed? And then I guess, how does Ubi Park best fit into that space?
Yeah, I might start by the increase in data, or I suppose the data that will be important to the event.
Yep.
Because we're starting to, we start to have data from when they start using the app, or using that version in the app. So we if they use the directions button and the navigation button, we know where they've started, we know where they're going, and then we know obviously where they've parked and come across into the event. So you're starting to see some demographic. So the Arts Centre actually use that in Melbourne, use that sort of understand where people are coming from in Melbourne to their events.
Yep.
So it helps them sort of target their marketing around those events going forward. What we're seeing in the community is a push back to the motor car as the main mode of transport. Even though Australia's been very car driven, there was obviously a very big push to public transport and other modes of transport, so to reduce congestion. But we're seeing a push back to that. We're seeing a lot of and our solutions are working well in these return to work plans, where we're able to share parking spaces between staff.
Yep.
So a tenant may have 50 parking locations because they're 200 staff, and we're able to get them to be, they're not in the office 5 days a week anymore. So we're able to rotate them through those spaces and get the 200 staff through the 50 spaces as they come in. So we're seeing a lot of that. We're definitely seeing people sort of push back away from that public transport and back to the car, which I think is a great opportunity for us, I suppose, and the event to start helping those people get back in. But then as you start to get confidence back after, vaccines get rolled out and COVID starts to go away, we're talking to, public transport organisations around having a relationship with the motorist.
Yep.
And then being able to, see the different modes of transport, and then they can start picking again what's the best mode of transport for them. But if you don't have that relationship with the person in the car,
yep,
then you're missing your target audience to help your congestion around the events.
Yeah, definitely. I think the other piece that, we've discussed when we're looking at that sports use case and, this return to sport and this idea of, we've got QR codes to check in everywhere. And if there is a case, God forbid, at a big event, what does it look like? The fact that you have got that data, like there is potential to look at that contact tracing and where people are going and where they've been. I think that data piece is going to be one that's going to be brought sharply into focus for the sports industry, or really any industry that gets a whole bunch of people together.
Yeah, definitely. We know that it's important, the data that's going through, and these sporting events, the data teams are going through all sorts of different data. So this was part of the reason why we've been selected to a few solutions, the Arts Centre especially, because they were keen to understand the data that they were missing out on outside the event, getting to the event. So
that's terrific, Mossy. This is where I do the Sports Geek pitch. This is something actually we've done previously way back when. For those who don't know, it's how what we do is, in fact. So this is my version of the Ubi Park pitch from our discussion. How getting to sports events has always been tough, and it's even tougher post-COVID. What Ubi Park does is get you to the stadium in style by removing the headache of trying to find a car park. In fact, Ubi Park has helped build revenue and utilisation with over 500,000 transactions across Australia, and it can now offer this new revenue stream for sports. There you go, Moss. There's your Ubi Park for sports pitch. Good to go.
No, thanks for that. We're just not in Australia now, mate. I will say we've launched our first sites in the States and in New Zealand and the UK. So we're starting to really expand across the world now.
Well, there you go. So I guess the next steps from a call to action is, go to sportsgeekamplify.com/UbiPark. The best way is to book in a call, really, because it is about defining your customer experience and having a chat. And that's where I've been working with Mossy, working with sports teams and leagues to understand how to get those technical pieces together to make it happen. Because once it's integrated, like you said, you get that setup piece work done, it's new revenue streams. And in 2021, new revenue streams in sport are vital.
Yeah, definitely. And that's I think that's probably, we're seeing in our discussions with potential clients that the revenue, as soon as you talk about revenue, that seems to be the big thing that they're interested in at the moment. Because I suppose you've lost revenue from people not being in the seats as much and sponsorship being maybe a little bit harder than what it was. So anywhere you can find some new revenue is probably good.
Terrific. Well, that's it for this episode. You can check out and link and connect with Moss and Howell on all platforms. Go check him out on LinkedIn. There'll be links in the show notes. We'll be at sportsgeekamplify.com. You can go check out Ubi Park at ubipark.com. Moston, thanks a lot for coming on the episode, and I look forward to catching up at a sports event soon.
Always fun, Sean. Really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
That's been my episode with Moston Howe from Ubi Park. Don't forget, you can check out all the episodes at sportsgeekamplify.com. Please check them out. That we are looking for sports technology companies that can help sports bounce back. My name is Sean Callanan from Sports Geek, and you've been listening to Sports Geek Amplify.
Please check out all episodes of the Sports Geek Amplify series at sportsgeekamplify.com. To connect with Moston at Ubi Park, go to sportsgeekamplify.com/ubipark. Join the Sports Geek Amplify cohort on a special #SportsBiz Zoom reunion show on June 8th and 9th. sportsgeekhq.com/Zoom calls. All episodes are available in the Sports Geek podcast feed. You can listen to Sports Geek on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and all good podcasting platforms. This has been a Sports Geek production.